All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Oh, absolutely. Always ready to dive in.
Perfect. Well, buckle up, because today's case is a wild ride. We're talking O.J. Simpson.
Whoa, okay, big one right out the gate. Everyone knows the name, but there's always more to uncover, right?
Exactly. We're going to unpack the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman.
June 1994, Brentwood, Los Angeles. I remember it like it was yesterday.
It was a case that gripped the nation, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We've got some incredible source material that dives deep into the events and the aftermath. It's going to be intense.
You know, this case, it goes way beyond just a whodunit. We're talking about celebrity race, the media circus, the whole 9 yards.
It really forced America to take a hard look at its justice system, didn't it? So, let's set the scene. June 12th, 1994 starts off like any other day in sunny California.
Picture this. Nicole Brown Simpson is celebrating her daughter's dance recital. The mood is light. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, and then later that night, she's having dinner with friends and family at Mezzaluna, this trendy Italian restaurant in Brentwood. Just a regular night out, you know.
But then everything changes. This joyous atmosphere just completely unravels.
It's crazy how quickly things can shift, right? Like one minute you're laughing with friends and the next, well, tragedy strikes. Later that night, Nicole and Ron Goldman, a waiter at the restaurant, are found murdered outside her condo.
Brutal murders. The crime scene was absolutely horrific.
A blood-soaked walkway, shattered glass everywhere, personal belongings scattered about. It just paints a really gruesome picture.
It's like something out of a nightmare. And think about this. Ron Goldman was simply returning a pair of glasses Nicole's mother had left at the restaurant.
Wrong place, wrong time, just awful.
Exactly. The sheer brutality of the attack, the fact that their bodies were found so close to Nicole's front door, it suggests a desperate struggle, a fight for their lives.
Chilling, to say the least. And so the investigation begins, and all eyes turn to
O.J. Simpson.
Right, O.J. Simpson. At this point, he's a beloved football hero, known for his charisma and charm.
But as the investigation unfolds, the cracks start to show.
There's his absence from the family dinner that night. Then there's his seemingly detached reaction to the news of Nicole's death. And then the evidence starts piling up.
Let's talk about that evidence, shall we? Because at the crime scene, investigators find blood drops, and when they test them, boom, they match Simpson's DNA.
Oh, wow, that's a pretty big piece of the puzzle right there.
It is, and it doesn't stop there. A glove matching one found at the crime scene is discovered at Simpson's estate.
And then there are those Bruno Magli shoe prints found at the crime scene.
Oh yeah, those shoes.
Yeah.
Super rare, expensive Italian shoes. Simpson denied ever owning a pair, but multiple witnesses testified to seeing him wear them. Pretty damning, right?
Absolutely. And then, of course, we have that unforgettable low-speed chase.
The white Ford Bronco. O.J. in the back seat, seemingly on the verge of a breakdown.
It was broadcast live on national television. Millions of people glued to their screens, watching this surreal pursuit unfold in real time. It was a media spectacle like nothing we'd ever seen before.
It really set the stage for the trial, which would become known as the trial of the century, a complete media circus.
The trial itself was a roller coaster. The prosecution came out strong, laying out the evidence. The DNA, the eyewitness accounts, the history of domestic abuse between O.J. and Nicole. They really tried to paint a picture of a volatile relationship that had turned deadly.
They had a mountain of evidence, but the defense had a plan. They were about to flip the script entirely.
And they did. They attacked the LAPD's handling of the evidence, suggesting contamination and raising questions about the integrity of the investigation.
And then they played the race card.
Which, given the context of Los Angeles at the time, was a brilliant, albeit controversial, strategy.
This is just a few years after the Rodney King beating. Tensions were high, and public trust in the LAPD, particularly within the Black community, was incredibly low.
And the defense seized on that. They brought up Detective Mark Furman, a key figure in the investigation, and exposed his history of making racist remarks and allegedly planting evidence.
It was a risky move, but it worked. They shifted the focus away from the evidence and onto the system itself, forcing everyone to question who it truly served and protected.
And suddenly, the trial became much more than just about O.J. It became a symbol of the deep racial divisions in America. You know, it makes you wonder how this whole thing would play out today, right?
Oh, totally different ball game. With social media and the 24/7 news cycle.
It'd be an absolute frenzy, right?
Oh yeah, imagine the Twitter storms, every little detail analyzed, debate.
Every witness, every piece of evidence just dissected online in real time.
It's crazy to think how much has changed since 1994.
Especially with DNA technology. It's come such a long way.
Back then it was this new thing, kind of scary almost.
The defense really played on that fear of the unknown, didn't they?
Absolutely. They knew how to exploit those doubts.
But today, DNA evidence is much more commonplace.
People are more aware of its accuracy, its power.
So would those same tactics even work today? It makes you think.
Hard to say. But the OJ trial definitely raised some big questions.
And then there's the whole issue of domestic violence.
It wasn't as openly discussed back then, was it?
Definitely not like it is today. Now there's much more awareness support for victims.
And you have to wonder, right? Would that awareness have changed things?
Would the public have seen the case differently? Maybe even the verdict?
It's impossible to know for sure, but it's a valid question.
There's no doubt the OJ case sparked a national conversation.
About race justice, the media's influence, all of it?
It was a turning point, a moment of reckoning for America in many ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It forced us to confront some hard truths about ourselves.
And speaking of truth, what about OJ's celebrity status? Do you think that played a role?
In the jury's decision.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible, right?
Like, did his fame, his golden boy image, create a subconscious bias?
It's something to think about for sure. Celebrity influence is a powerful thing.
Especially when you're dealing with a legal system that isn't always perfect.
That's a key point. The OJ case also revealed a lot about the LAPD.
Their deep-seated racial tensions, their troubled relationship with the Black community.
You can't ignore the context, the Rodney King beating a few years prior.
It cast a long shadow over the Simpson trial for sure.
And the defense used that brilliantly. They hammered home the LAPD's history of misconduct.
Racial bias evidence tampering the whole 9 yards.
And that resonated with a lot of people, especially in the Black community.
They had every reason to distrust the system, to doubt the investigation.
It's a reminder that justice isn't always blind, is it?
No, it's not. Systemic issues biases, they can absolutely affect the outcome of a case.
And the OJ trial became a symbol of that, a case study in how power and privilege can influence the legal system.
And let's not forget the media's role in all this.
Oh yeah, the trial was a media circus from beginning to end.
Cameras everywhere, every twist and turn broadcasted to the nation.
It became a form of entertainment, almost overshadowing the search for truth and justice.
It's crazy to think this was before the internet and social media.
But even without those tools, the case dominated every conversation.
Headlines, talk shows, water cooler gossip. It was everywhere.
The OJ trial was a watershed moment for media coverage.
It set a precedent for the kind of intense scrutiny we see today.
And maybe that's the most enduring legacy of the O.J. Simpson case.
Its ability to spark dialogue, to make us think about uncomfortable truth.
About ourselves, about the systems we live under.
It's a case that continues to be analyzed, debated, reinterpreted, even today.
It refuses to fade away, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. It's a story that stays with you long after the verdict.
The details, the drama, the raw emotions, they all linger.
Making you question justice, race, celebrity, everything.
And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, it's important to remember
the human cost of this tragedy, the lives lost, the families shattered.
Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, they deserve to be remembered.
As individuals, not just victims in a sensationalized case.
Their stories, their loved ones should not be forgotten.
Absolutely. So before we move on to the final chapter, I want to ask you,
what has resonated with you the most so far? What are you thinking about?
Take a moment, reflect on these questions as we dive into the aftermath.
And the haunting legacy of the O.J. Simpson case.
You know, it's strange to think that Nicole's condo, that place on Bundy Drive.
It's almost like a landmark now, isn't it?
It is. People still go there drawn to it after all these years.
Even though they changed the address, tried to make it blend in.
It's a reminder that this wasn't just a story.
Real lives, real families, forever changed by that night.
And those families, Nicole's and Ron's?
They've had to deal with so much. The grief, the scrutiny.
Having to relive it all every time that case resurfaces.
It's a heavy burden to carry for sure.
And the case just keeps resurfacing, doesn't it? Books, documentaries, that TV series.
Like we're constantly re-examining it, debating it.
Each generation finding a new angle, a new take.
I guess it's become a cultural touchstone in a way.
A way to look at race, justice, celebrity, all those big themes.
It forces us to confront our own biases too, right?
Absolutely. But it's important to remember, amidst all the noise,
that there were real people at the heart of this.
And Cole and Ron, They deserve to be remembered as individuals.
Not just victims in this huge media spectacle.
Exactly. They had lives, loved ones, dreams.
We should honor their memory, not let it get lost.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
How do you think this case would play out today?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one.
With all the advancements in forensics, the awareness of domestic violence?
And of course, social media throwing fuel on the fire.
Would the outcome be the same? Would justice be served?
Or would we see the court of public opinion taking over?
It's something to think about, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you wonder how much has truly changed.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. It's been a heavy one.
But important to explore these complex cases.
To learn from them, to
Sure.
keep asking questions.
And never stop seeking truth and understanding.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So until next time, keep those minds curious.
And remember, every case has a human story at its core.